Are Amphibia and the Owl House the same show? Short answer,
Absolutely not.
What? Alright, that's crazy.
long answer, they are not exactly the same, but they do share a lot of similarities that I can forgive someone who thought that these two shows are the same. I know a few people who are even willing to say they're a ripoff of each other, which is an unfair criticism. Simply put, Amphibia and the Owl House are what I call sister shows. These two shows are developed by former Gravity Falls crew members Matt Brawley for Amphibia and Dana Terrace for the Owl House. Both shows also share some crew members between each other, from the voice director to the music composers. Then of course, both shows were also greenlit and developed roughly around the same time. As a result of these similarities in development, the shows end up sharing a lot of similarities down to the central basis of their stories. However, these two also have a good amount of differences to the point where calling them ripoffs of each other is totally inaccurate, as I will elaborate. Before that, let's go over the similarities between these two shows. Both Amphibia and the Owl House are isekai-like stories featuring a teenage girl, Anne Boonchoi and Luz Noceda respectively, as their main leads. Both protagonists are transported to another world where they are adopted by a found family who are also outsiders of their respective communities. Both Anne and Luz eventually grew to love their found families and had to fight antagonists to save the parental figure of their families. Both characters encountered and fought the main leader of their respective isekai worlds. The two of them, as well as their found families or friends, also end up back on Earth after their close friends sacrifice their own safety to make sure their loved ones are safe. Despite the chaos going on in Amphibia and the Boiling Isles, Anne and Luz did spend some fun time with their family and friends on Earth. However, these two are also very stressed out about getting back to their isekai worlds and feel guilty for putting the people they love stranded and being unable to save the ones they left behind. Eventually, both protagonists did make their way back to their respective isekai worlds, but they discover how much it has changed since they left. After confronting the smaller antagonists and making peace with them, the final boss antagonists decide to say screw it and try to destroy the entire world. To defeat the final boss, Anne and Luz unlock their most powerful forms to finish them off. Although to do that, they had to sacrifice themselves, and both of them did technically die. However, both of them encountered the omnipotent god of their respective worlds that watched them this whole time, and both of them were revived back to life, much to the delight of their families. Also, both shows end with a time skip where the main characters are now grown adults. There are other smaller similarities too. Anne and Luz are really close with the small, chaotic, but still fun-loving member of the found family. The elder parental figures are cranky and had some differences with their adopted child at first, but they eventually grew to find some common ground and relate to each other. Also, both found families have a member who is surprisingly strong and chaotic. Outside of the found family, you also have the girl who is a rival towards the main protagonist at first, but they eventually sort out differences. On the antagonist side, Andres and Bellows are two people who lived a lot longer than their natural lifespans, with powerful abilities that really challenged Anne and Luz respectively. There are some more similarities that I can point out, but I think you get my point. Amphibia and the Owl House share a very similar plot structure, and their main leads share similar surface level traits. However, as long as the list of similarities is, the list of differences between the two shows are longer. When it comes to Anne and Luz, they are similarly aged teenage girls, 13 and 14 years old respectively, who have self-esteem problems. However, below the surface level, the two are actually rather different characters. Anne is less of a nerd and more athletic. Also in the beginning of the show at least, Anne is more self-centered and in my view, seems more balanced in terms of her emotions. Most female protagonists of Disney shows like Mabel, Star, Molly, and Luz are very optimistic, hyperactive characters who are pretty naive with their respective situations. However, Anne does not carry those similar traits. Sure, she can be naive at times, but her view of the world around her is more nuanced. And part of the reason why that's the case is because she faced the worst of what Amphibia had to offer early on in the show before being found by the planters. In my opinion, this makes Anne the more unique character compared to Luz, which is why I prefer Anne as a character personally. That being said, I still like Luz as a character. Early on in the show, she embodied a lot of the traits of Marcy, optimistic, nerdy, and pretty naive, like what I explained earlier with other Disney protagonists. But as the show progressed, Luz's perspective of the world evolved into something more cynical as she lets her negative experiences control her. Of course, by the end of the show, she thankfully became less cynical and now viewed the world with more nuance, similar to Anne. Put it another way, while Anne and Luz may have some common experiences, and I'm pretty sure both characters would relate to each other a lot because of that, their takeaways from their journeys are very different. You can see this difference in arcs rather clearly in the show's respective finales. With Amphibia, that show ended with Anne separated from the planters and everyone in that world, presumably forever, although Marcy's journal does suggest otherwise. As much as some people find this ending problematic for how bittersweet it is, it works well with the show's main message, which is that everyone experiences life changes and you have to accept that. But change itself should not be something to fear because the past experiences will always be remembered by everyone who experienced it. In contrast, the Owl House ended with Luz still having access to the demon realm to see her friends and family there. Although I find this ending idealistic, it does work well with the show's message of pursuing your passions and becoming who you want to be, regardless of what society expects from you. It is true that both of these messages are not mutually exclusive. Anne had an arc of being accepted for who she is as well, and Luz also had an arc about accepting changes in her life. But the emphasis of the themes are what's different here, and that ultimately is what distinguishes these two shows from each other. There are other miscellaneous differences between these shows as well, like the animation style, the tones of the shows, the layout of the individual episodes, the comedy, the different roles of the side characters, and a lot more. But the differences in what message these two stories are trying to tell us all is what sets these two shows apart. Thankfully, the amount of people who believe these shows are a ripoff of one another is very low in number, because the vast majority of people who watch these two shows can see the differences clearly. While both shows may have similar plot structures and similar audiences with fandoms that overlap with each other, they are just as different from each other as they are different from other shows like Gravity Falls, Star vs. the Force of Evil, and basically most other isekai-like stories. So yeah, those are my thoughts. What do you guys think of Amphibia and the Owl House? Do you like both shows equally, or do you have a clear preference for one of them? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, thanks again to those who support this channel through YouTube memberships, along with everyone else who watches these videos. Anyways, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next one.